I was working at a hospital on a ward that was a psych and drug rehab unit for adolescents, 13 to 18-year-olds. When I left that night, I saw Amanda. The next morning when I came into the unit, I could tell that things were in disarray. People were kind of freaked out, and so I saw Amanda sitting right there in front of the nurses station, and she had her arms crossed, and I said, "Hi, Amanda." And she just kind of looked at me and then didn't say anything. So I went in, read the charts, and realized and found out from everybody last night, the night before, she had attempted suicide. And so, as the story goes, when I left the unit a few minutes later, she had gone into her bedroom, taken her bed, and she had wedged it up against the door to the bedroom. And these were like fire-resistant, hardcore doors. And then she got the second bed, and she wedged it in between the first bed and the wall, so that when somebody would try to open that door wasn't going anywhere. After a few minutes, some of the counselors and nurses realized, wait, it's like, how come Amanda's not coming out? They're knocking on the door. She's not responding. So then they realized they had an emergency situation on their hands. We were on about the 5th floor, so there's no way to get into that room except from the door or from the window 5 stories up. So one of the counselors grabbed a sledgehammer and he smashed a hole through the door, and he looked, and when he looked through, he saw Amanda laying on the bed, turning blue. So he told everybody, stand back, and he pounded hole after hole into the door so that he can actually break the door in half. He grabbed a nurse, threw her into the room, jumped in himself, and they started working on her neck. She had taken those shoelaces and she had tied them up really tight, and she was suffocating herself. And so they started to cut those things off, and they were able to get those off and resuscitate her and bring her back. And so fast forward the next morning, there I am, at the nurse's station with Amanda, and I sat down with her and I said, "Amanda," and I just felt like I was staring death in the face. And I said, "What happened last night?" And she wouldn't tell me. And I said, "Well, what do you have to, think about some things to live for. What about your boyfriend?" She said, "Oh, he doesn't care about me. He just wants to use me for my body." I was like, "Well, what about having children someday?" And she said, "Well, I probably won't be able to have any children." And the tough thing for me is that in this Catholic hospital, the pastoral staff could talk about God, but I couldn't bring God into the conversation at all. And so I was trying to use natural means to talk her out of committing suicide. A few more steps. I said, "What about hiking outside? What about the beauty of nature?" She's like, "Oh, I don't care about that." I said, "What about ice cream?" And she's like, nothing. I talked to her for about 15, 20 minutes, and nothing worked. And so I said, "Well, I'll welcome any conversation that you're open to." And I walked away, and I just felt deflated. Over the next couple of weeks, she started to get better. And then at some point, she was actually cheerful. And I pulled her aside and I said, Amanda, like, this is great. You're doing pretty well. And she said, "Yeah, Mike, I am." And I said, "Can you give me some insight? Like, what could I have said 2 weeks ago to really help you?" And she said, "Nothing. There was nothing that you could have done to talk me out of it. However, I will never forget that you tried. You cared." So as a father, I think that lesson is really key to remember, that sometimes there's nothing you're going to be able to say that's going to solve the situation. The only thing that's going to matter is that you tried, that you were persevering, you came back and you tried to love the best you can through your action, through being present. Because the bottom line, effort counts. Effort is love.